You found us.
Welcome to Emergency Protocol, a podcast for people who are stressy and depressy.
We are your hosts,
Denise
and Jackie Freed. That's my mama.
And that's my baby.
We are sharing our 12 steps reimagined for today's society.
And our bumpy, pothole-ridden spiritual paths.
And we're bringing you along for the ride.
This is us doing the actual work.
When the shit hits the fan, you know it's time for Emergency Protocol.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Sorry we've been out for a few weeks. Some shit went down. It's been a...
Funny how shit keeps going down. Just, you know?
I know.
Again and again.
It's that falsehood where you think, okay, once I get through this, it'll get calm. And then...
Then your grandma dies.
Then your grandma dies. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Great grandma. Grandma.
Your grandma.
My grandma.
My great grandma.
So that's what happened. Some shit went down.
Yeah.
So back to October 6th. We're now at the 17th or 16th or...
It's the 19th.
19th? Yes. So a few weeks ago, I was headed home from work on a Friday. Got a text that grandma fell and was in the hospital. Things weren't looking so good. So I just went straight to the hospital after work. And she didn't break anything, but they discovered she had pneumonia. And she wasn't processing her CO2 correctly, which would affect her heart, which was already bad. So, like, the thing is that, and I don't know if it's common among all older people, but the pulmonary and the heart together, when the heart's not pumping things through, the lungs fill up. And so there's this thing where the CO2 wasn't processing, and they were trying to move it through her with this breathing apparatus over her face, which she did not like. No. Or to the point where they had to put little mittens on her hands because she kept trying to pull it off. And then she's like, no. They're putting it on her. She's like, that is not necessary. And so, I got there and she's, it's like a thing. So it's like pushing, it's hard on the body, they said, because it's just pushing it through.
It's like forcing. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like kind of, moaning with each breath. And I was like, Grandma, you okay? You need anything? And she nodded her head and I said, what do you need? And she said, ice cream. And I was like, well, I don't think I can get you any ice cream right now. Coke. And I was like, well, they can't do that either. Eventually, once they learned that this CO2 machine was not working and they were just going to put her on a regular nose oxygen tube, the nurse came back and brought her vanilla ice cream, which I thought was so sensitive and loving. And also, she was like the most attentive nurse of all the nurses that were there.
Yeah.
So anyway, from Friday to Sunday, it was a process of people coming and going and being in the hospital and leaving the hospital.
Yeah.
My aunt, God bless her, taking care of my grandma, for living with her and taking care of her, not only her, but my grandfather to the very end.
Yeah.
And also having to leave the hospital because her husband's on dialysis. So she'd have to leave the hospital after being up all night, go help her husband do his dialysis twice a day. And then she'd come back to the hospital. And so she was wiped out.
Yeah.
And so I spent the night there. Well, I was coming home. And that's when they took her off that CO2 machine. And they said, okay, it's going to be sometime soon
like,
that she's going to pass, right? So I was like, it's 11:30 at night, hadn't eaten all morning. One of the things that Grandma would do when we went to the doctor, okay, God bless her. We're going to the regular doctor. She's got cardio issues and she's got pulmonary issues. But when we'd leave the hospital, she would say, okay, we're going to go to McDonald's and get a cheeseburger. And I'm buying. And she had her $20. And she's like, I'm buying lunch. And I was like, okay, Graham. So
Thanks.
so I was like, all right, nothing says fixing that heart like eating a cheeseburger. But when you're in your 90s, who fucking cares, right?
97.
Like eat. Yeah, she's 97 when she's
She earned that shit.
right. And so I leave the hospital Saturday night. I'm like, I'm wiped out and starving. It's 11:30. I'm driving back, and Marilyn texts me. They are taking her off the machine. It could be a couple hours. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go get warmer clothes. So I had like flip flops. It's freezing in the hospital. And I'm like, where can I eat? And there's taco things, but I didn't feel like getting out of my car. I was like, oh, I'm going to go get grandma's cheeseburger. I drove through the McDonald's and ate a cheeseburger and a small fry and came home, warmed up, and went back. And she ended up passing Sunday afternoon.
Like
so it was a
1:30.
long weekend. A long weekend of just being there, being present,
Showing up.
trying not to be too much on my phone, but also needing to be on my phone, needing to get up and take a walk, sleeping in a chair, just
Still
all the
doing work.
uncomfortable stuff of being in the hospital. And then the comings and goings of uncles and people. And then, so that's Sunday. She passes. I stay for a couple of hours or something like that after, as people were still coming and going. And then I was like, I'm going to go home and lay down. I literally came back, crawled in bed, and was like, ow. And then I was like, I can't stay out for too long or I'm going to be up all night. And, so once I kind of woke up, I stayed up. And then Tuesday, my CEO came to town, and so that was it's always busy. It's like following the Tasmanian devil around. He's just so busy and stops at so many places, and it's great because he brings this really amazing energy with him, but it also, like, everybody on the back end is a little tired when he goes, and I don't know how tired he must be when he goes. So we had a couple days of that, of like early mornings and dinners and stuff, and then went to the cemetery on that Thursday, helped my aunt figure out how the funeral was going to go, did all of that, and then had the funeral. When did we have the funeral? 2 days ago. And so it's just been a lot. And wait, okay, Grandma dies.
We had
on
already,
Sunday. Have the CEO in. Also, my bestie had got us tickets to see the Eagles at the Sphere, which is a fucking fortune in Las Vegas. What the fuck? So I'm like, I'm going. I'm not a Vegas person.
Like maybe once a decade.
Once a decade. For an event, to go to a thing.
To a dinner and a show. We spend $20 in the airport and the slots machines. That's our commitment to gambling.
Yes. And it's smoky and it's weird and it's just not my ugh. Anyway. So I'm wiped out from the week, but I'm like, okay, we're gonna rally. We're going to Vegas. Nothing says Yom Kippur like Joe's Crab Shack and an Eagles concert. Anyway,
and I worked a double shift that weekend. I worked I clopened Saturday and Sunday. And then, so that's like from Sunday to Sunday. That was my week. Then the funeral, and then the funeral. Coordinating all that and working, and then Friday, we had a postcard writing party that we had already committed 2 months ago because I ordered 500 postcards to send to swing states. And we got Florida. Yeah, we got Florida. Hi, people in Florida. If you're in Florida, we got you. If you got some glitter stickers, it was
got some
us.
Stickers and colored ink. It was us. We did it. So once I realized, 500 postcards is a lot, I decided months ago that I was going to have and when they were needing to be mailed,
we were going to have an over my dead body postcard writing party.
Yes.
That was politically costumes. So political costumes preferred. If you don't want to wear anything, that's fine too. So we had 20 women over last night. And then, because we haven't recorded, so we're here we are right now.
Literally.
And right after this, we're driving to San Diego to see a comedian named Laura, who I can't even remember her last name. Yeah, and who is fucking really hilarious.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
That was also purchased months ago. We're going to have a nice dinner, and then we're going to drive home. And then tomorrow night, we're going to the final home game of Angel City Football Club. Downtown LA. What the fuck?
What the fuck?
We're packing a lot of life into life. We're packing a whole year of living into like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I was at a wedding. I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny. Like, I was literally driving up to the Bay Area for a wedding.
Yes.
And then driving back, trying to race against the clock on the 5, trying to get back.
Yeah,
and
you weren't going to get back.
No.
I knew you weren't going to get back, but that was okay. You. The thing is like you get to say what you wanted to say to Grandma, and I held it to her, and she had an earbud on, and I know she was hearing us because she wanted that ice cream, and she got her ice cream. So I knew, even though she wasn't really cognizant at that point, there were times where she was coming in and out. Yeah, she wasn't interacting, but I know you get to say what you need to say, which is also very healing to do that. Yeah.
And it helps that we just saw her too for Labor Day.
Yeah.
So
this is like the last matriarch.
Yes.
Like of that generation.
The ones who like host the holidays and coordinate the stuff. Yeah.
Other than yours truly.
But I'm not that. You kind of picked up the mantle for a long time, and then you
that gave back the mantle.
It down. You didn't even give it back. You just kind of like.
I was like, hey, there's a pandemic.
Yeah.
This is my out.
Yeah.
I'm like, may not pick that up again. Well, but last night was as close as we've gotten. It was a good test run. Yeah.
She went all out. So also we're generally not a spooky season family. We appreciate, we dabble, but like there's never trick-or-treaters here.
No.
You decorate like fall themed for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And like leaves and stuff. You like to do a little stuff. Sometimes you'll put up a little like Easter banner.
I am not a homeschool.
But you are with Christmas. You are Mother Christmas.
I do like Christmas.
She is.
Christmas feels homey and cozy, and
that's why I'm a Christmas.
She's half Jewish, half Christmas. Let's get that straight.
Direct quote from my childhood. Yeah, but you did go all out with the decor and the stuff. So this was, I feel like it was a Halloween equivalent, which we've never done before.
No, which is why I forgot to light up my spooky lights that were jangled all over everything. But it's good.
They're cute.
And we had a lot of women here, and it was like a mix of all different eras, like your childhood, your sister's childhood,
adult friends,
and your adult friends, and
Yeah. We had some really good costumes.
And childhood friends. We had a George Washington. We had a hanging Chad. We had a Supreme Court justice. Yeah. Oh, I bonked. Sorry. Yeah. You were red, white, and blue.
I was red, white, and blue, but then someone was like, "Oh, are you Ella?" And I was like, "Ella." And she's like, "Ella Emhoff," and I was like, "I am now." So that was great. We had Camo Kamala. We had a lot of pantsuit and pearls.
Yes.
We had some witches.
Yes.
Lots of witches.
The early political, the way backs.
Yes. Yes. I think that's it.
Yeah.
So, solid.
But we got 450 postcards?
450, yeah.
That's a lot of postcards in one night.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. And it was great. And we ate and laughed and communed and had multi-generations there. I had my mom there. It was it was cool. Yeah. It's cool to have.
It was good to be together.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we've been in other people's spaces, but since the pandemic, we haven't had people in our space.
Right.
In a way, like that.
In a meaningful way, yeah. But we're about to. Oh, yeah, we're going to have to. My brain just went to business right there. I was like, I gotta schedule some more shit. Anyway, one thing I wanted to say is the importance of being clean in your relationships with people. Like, my grandma passed, even if I hadn't been able to be there that during that time, if I was out of town or something, I would not have felt not complete with her. Do you know, like I told her multiple times what she meant to me, what she did for me, how I appreciated her.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of, not lots and lots, but enough so that she knew.
You knew that she knew.
I knew that she knew. And in one of the ways that I did it, because sometimes it's harder to express gratitude than to express anger or, when you're mad at somebody.
Especially when your family is not the most emotionally
They're not the huggy.
aware.
They're not the huggy side of the family at all. As a matter of fact, your dad is very huggy, and so he'd go up to grandma and like in the beginning and just like bear hug her, and she'd be like, like stiff bodied, like somebody get it off of me, you know, like, but
Yeah.
Anyway,
easier to express gratitude.
and so a couple of Thanksgivings, I think only twice, but that's enough. I made a gratitude letter for pretty much everybody in the family and gave them a letter that said why I'm grateful for them. And it had all the things on it about what they meant to me. And, years later, we were going through her photographs because every once in a while we bring out the photographs when everybody's there. And my letter was in the photograph box, and I was like, So, it means something to people it meant something to me to say it, and it meant something to her to hear it.
Yeah.
And it's not, if you can't communicate it verbally, you can also write it down. And also I didn't hand her the letter. I wrote the letter and I left it on her desk on Thanksgiving so she could read it after everybody left, and she could cry, which I knew she would because I cried writing it, and it was like, so it's so nice to do that and to know you're appreciated.
Yeah.
Because she would say to me like, your kids turned out so great. Like, and I was like, your kids turned out great too. She's like, well, and I was like, you have like nice people. Like
and they all show up.
Yeah. We're a group of good people.
Yeah.
Overall, we all have our foibles, but whatever. Like we do the best we can, but the best we can is still pretty good. And we're pretty kind to each other.
I feel like it's kind of a low bar, but like there's not a lot of no contact in our family. Like some people have to go no contact because they don't have good relationships with their family members.
Right.
We don't have a lot of that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a little bit, but not
a little
much.
bit.
So anyway,
and also
that's go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say too, like you also expressed gratitude by like you bought her a new stove one year, right? Or an oven or something, right? Dryer.
Yeah, she used to hang her laundry. So grandma with her like string, and I was like, Grandma, you need a dryer. No, I don't. And so finally I was like, she had a washer that was in this little closet outside that was covered so she could use it. So I went back there and I measured, and I realized that there was a gas pipe for their barbecue right on the other side of the wall. And it would be very easy to pull the electrical and the plumbing right up and give her this appliance to make her life easier.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, Grandma, maybe it was a birthday or Christmas, I don't know what. And I was like, you got a new washer dryer coming tomorrow. No, I don't. I don't have that. We don't have a plug. I said, well, the plumber's coming tomorrow first, and then actually it's coming on the next day. No, nope. It's too late. It's already paid for. And like, cause she fought me on it.
Yeah.
And then like, I don't know, that winter, she's like, I did laundry in the rain. And I was like, how about that? Modern convenience in year 2000. Like, what the hell, Grandma?
Yeah.
But I will say clothes do last longer when you hang them up on the line. And they sometimes smell fresher too, just by hanging them out in the air.
But then you have to have the space to hang them.
You have to have this, And, So anyway, Doing little and sometimes big acts of love are good.
Yeah.
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 So that's my side of the last, since October, probably 4th. Mm-hmm. So the first 3 weeks, and we have an election coming up, and
16 days.
Yeah, so it's just been a little bit of a, and there's still a lot of shit at work. Mm-hmm. Some of it got put to rest this week that I've been having to deal with. And
that's a big one.
So
we'll be discreet, but yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah.
How about you?
How about me?
Wedding.
Well,
yeah.
Basically some of that. And then went up for a wedding, which was really beautiful. Lovely weekend. It was weird because I had to call and say goodbye to grandma as I was going down to leave for the reception.
Yeah.
Right? And so,
fully dressed to
fully
go,
dressed,
makeup, ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I'm crying in the hotel bathroom. I come downstairs and waiting. Finally, a friend shows up and she's like, hey, how's it going? And I just I started crying again. There's a bar in the lobby, and the bartender brought me a stack of napkins. I was like, okay. But, it is what it is. It was super weird having to basically box up those feelings and kind of process a little bit and then just push the rest away because we were going to this party, right? And then to just be present. Right. I did feel like I was able to celebrate my friends, and we sang and we danced, and I put a lot of my anxious energy into, we did a surprise flash mob. So I practiced that a lot.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you. Yeah. I sent you sure it got lost in the email shuffle, but we were given some homework 3 days before the wedding.
Oh, 3 days.
Which maybe for an Indian culture where you're used to choreographed dancing, it's not that big of a deal. But for me, it was oh, okay, I guess I got to learn this. And choreography is not my strong suit. I really got to drill that shit in. So I was in my hotel room timing,
trying to do some muscle memory.
It was offbeat a little, intentionally. So... But I gotta say, I felt very confident in the moment.
Good.
So, worth the practice. I took it way too seriously. That also just showed me that I cannot not take myself seriously.
Can you not take yourself not seriously?
I take myself very seriously.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
Really?
Yeah. I was really, really concerned about this dance. And for better or for worse, right? It's just that's how I am. But that brought that to my awareness again. So I was okay, I could be more unserious. Potentially. But that's hard. It's hard. It's just, something to bring to the therapy table for sure. So did the wedding, called, said my words to grandma, came back a day early, and was really glad that I did that so I could just be home and be with family. Mm-hmm. Then went to work, and weird that our culture doesn't really allow for or encourage time off from work. In some ways it's good to have space from grieving, but also I didn't feel like I could take off a week of work to mourn a family member, right? That just seems very weird to me. And so that, and then having to make up for the work that I had previously missed for the wedding, right? Just And
so
then also, tangent, but I understand better now than I did the last election why a lot of people don't vote, even though they're legally required to have time off for voting, but it's not paid time off. And some people literally can't afford to take that time off to vote. So if they don't have early voting or vote by mail,
right?
What are they going to do? except try to squeeze it in before or after, but the line might be long. Who know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just a little aside there.
We don't get the day off to vote, but we get the time off to vote.
Yeah.
So like you can go
You're supposed,
vote.
yeah.
But
if you're working in a store and you're the only person scheduled, then.
Yeah. Then how are we supposed to do that without a mail-in ballot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I had therapy that Monday too, which was really great. We had a really good ACA. Was that? No, that was the week after. But I had therapy the Monday after Grandma passed, or the day after Grandma passed, which was great timing. And then had that, worked, did the memorial, and you also gifted me a reading with a
Oh yes, I did.
with an intuitive / medium, because spooky season.
Why not?
Yeah. And that was really interesting. One of the things that I ended up doing more of I did an intuitive reading with her instead of a medium reading. She's like,
for those of you who don't know, an intuitive reading is when somebody like intuits like what
your like energy.
Your energy is. Yeah. And a medium is where they're connecting with someone on the other side.
Yeah.
And bringing them in. Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
But one of the things she said up front was like, just to be clear, like, I'm not here to like be a back and forth communication channel between like people who have passed. Like they're here all the time. You can talk to them anytime. And I was like, okay, interesting. And so we did the memorial. I spent the night at Livy's, which was really sweet. And then the next day I dropped her off and was driving back and just like waterworks the whole way back. And like, I was like,
probably not the best on the freeway to be waterworking, but okay.
I could still see out of my eyeballs. So I felt confident. It was late enough that it was chill. But so, yeah, I just said like, hey guys. And I just said a lot that apparently I needed to say, and cried a lot, and it was very cathartic. And then Friday I had a check-in with my psychiatrist, which was good. It was like a long appointment. So we got into the nitty-gritty of stuff, and Wellbutrin is working really well still. But he believes me enough to prescribe me Ritalin.
He believes you enough?
The medical professional wrote that script for me, and I was able to fill that script after a lot of back and forth and running like kind of wild goose chasing. That's a whole other thing that maybe I'll get into another time. But I'm going to take that first pill tomorrow. Okay. So
is that an energy booster? What is it supposed to do?
So, I mean, it is a stimulant.
Yeah.
It's not the same as Adderall. It's adjacent, right? He said it should be more gentle. And also it can be energizing, but it can also help like quiet all of the other stuff and allow more focus and hopefully get me over some of those executive functioning humps that I'm still hitting. I was doing my dishes really regularly up until Grandma passed. And I'm like, you know what? I'm giving myself a bye for this week to grieve and not do the dishes.
Yeah.
But anyways, and I feel anxious about trying this new medication too, right? Like I'm nervous, like I don't want the same thing to happen that happened last time.
Right.
The good news is that this medication is different than within SSRI or SNRI where you can just stop taking it, right? He's like, if you feel uncomfortable or you have a lot of like negative symptoms or whatever, like you can just stop it and we'll try something else.
Got it.
There's no like ramp up and ramp down. I mean, there is a ramp up, and he was like, try this dose for this number of days. And I was like, whoa, I was like, 3 days feels too short. I'm like, can I do like 5 days or a week? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, just the minimum is like, give it 3 days to see how it goes.
Little bug there.
Okay.
Does the Ritalin help with like the attention focus?
Yes,
Got it.
It should.
And I'm listening to this fascinating book. I think it's called First We Make the Beast Beautiful.
And I can't remember the name of the author, but at least I kind of remembered the title, which is also a big win because I don't remember names of things. Haven't ever. Or songs. Like, couldn't even as a kid. You tell me, unless it's like Stairway to Heaven or something that's just like drummed into your brain.
Yeah.
So it's just fascinating to listen to this woman talk about her journey exploring. So she's a writer and she admittedly still says self-indulgently has written mostly for magazines and different outlets, and now this book about anxiety or interviewing,
mental health
professionals and also people who may not be mental health professionals but are open about talking about stuff, right? And where their things lie. And also all of these people who accomplished really amazing things that also were like OCD and had to count things 3 times. Like I don't know if she said it was Einstein or something. Or somebody had to walk around the block 3 times before they gave a speech. Or one of the most famous basketball players, like basically anxiety threw up like 1,000 times before every game because he was so stressed out, right? Like,
oh yeah, sports barfing.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, not again, just validating what we're doing here in the normalization of mental health, and that, and I don't even know, I almost don't want to say mental illness anymore. I almost want to say like, what, I mean, it is an illness. I guess it is an illness. It is an illness. But I don't want to say it's marginalized, I guess, because it's so broad and it affects so many people. I would say the margin is in the normal.
I don't even know that there is normal.
Right?
I think it's these weird like Puritan morals and norms that were like forced upon so many people.
All right. Yeah.
Right?
Could be anything. But listening to her, because she's done so much work, literally the last long time of her life has spent just interviewing, talking, focusing, hibernating, exercise, like all the ways that she's tried to manage this.
Yeah.
And then also be interviewing people around it. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating book to listen to.
We'll put that.
She's
in the
from
show notes.
Australia, so she's got a nice.
Is she reading it too?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's those little words like dodgy and things like that are different in there. But again, I think it's one of the things that I related to in her story was trying to outrun the anxiety, like kind of like how we've booked up this whole. Stop it. Jackie's always like, did you have to fill every fucking blank space in our lives with something? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And she's like, what did you say to me there? How are you doing with your freshly diagnosed anxiety?
She's like a late blooming anxiety girly.
She's like, you're anxious. I'm like, am I? Yes, I am. But
better living through therapy.
But that was the other thing too. It was like she was talking about something that I could relate to, which is like I could speak in front of a lot of people in a not performative way, but like I could be up on I guess it is kind of performative, but you're speaking in front of a lot of people.
It can also be vulnerable.
And it's also, but it's also harder with people that I don't know to be vulnerable. And
like starting up a conversation with a stranger at a party.
Exactly. And then one of the things that, my friend Sally brought up when we were in Vegas that weekend, and we were talking about, new friends and people she's meeting and people that, like that we know. And she's like, some people don't get under the skin, right? And it's kind of like, it was better than, to me, that was better than skin deep. For me, it's like, I don't really have an interest in talking, unless it's work related or something like that. I don't really have an interest in building bonds with people who won't go under the skin, right? Because I don't want to not know who you are, right? I don't want to spend a lot of time not getting any closer to each other, right? And so that requires vulnerability, which requires some courage, which requires I don't know what, right? And so, but to me, I was just like, okay, where I am at my age, I just don't care for the just stuff that doesn't matter. Like, I don't care what somebody's wearing. I don't really care
where they went to school.
I don't really care about any of that.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
I've had that reaction a couple times, like on dates or just talking to people. And they're like, oh, wow, like I don't normally talk about this stuff. And I was like, then what do you talk about?
Right? Do you talk about
like
clam chowder?
At work?
Yeah, right?
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Talk
like,
about all your ex-girlfriends?
Yeah. But like, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where we're at now is we're exploring our ACA meeting, which is a kind of workshop-y meeting, which actually is inspiring me to kind of make ours a little more structured, something like that, where we could maybe pause for a minute and do a little introspection and then come back and talk about stuff. One of the other things that I was looking at too in the 12 Steps Reimagined, right? So we rewrote that. And one of the things that we don't have in here, and I think we might need to adjust. And I only bring that up because
this is the
of
first
listening.
I'm hearing of this.
Yes, which is good. Because just in listening to this book, it brought it up to me. In the original 12 step, on step 3, it says, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him, right? So that language didn't work, right? And we changed it to, we trust that something bigger is taking care of us. In listening to this book, she was talking about the multiple people that have not managed, but are living with their anxiety and or depression. They've all made a decision. Like a decision was made.
So we need to add that in.
And
we made a decision. We decided to trust.
Something needs to, a decision needs to be made. And I know for me, I when I was newly sober, I was going in and out. So I wasn't going in and out. I was smoking weed the whole time, but I was drinking periodically and trying to not do cocaine, right? So like, but the weed was like just a stabilizer, but I was pretending to be sober. I was pretending to like, you know, and then the last time I went, I was like, okay, I made a decision that I'm not going to fake it anymore. I'm going to really try to do this, and I'm going to be willing to do what this sponsor was asking me to do, which was to be more involved, to go to more meetings, to show up, to do this work, to do
like not give yourself the space to do it.
There was no space. There was no, for me, it was like once I made the decision, there was no saying no. It was like, I'm committed to seeing if this is going to work because I'm all fucking out of options. And I knew I was going to die or worse. You know what I mean? Like I didn't, to me, like institution or jail would have been worse than dying, you know? And so I think that was a pivotal moment in my ultimate surrender to trying to live a different way. And so when she said, it was just a couple of sentences in this book, but it was like, oh shit, that decision is really important. And I realized we hadn't incorporated that exactly in there with that kind of language. And language, I think, is important. Just like the language didn't work for you. Yeah. The language that does work also needs to work for us. So anyway, yeah, the first time you're hearing that, but still, I thought that was something, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I think that's the other thing too. When people die, most people go in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I doing it with? Where am I doing it? What does my life look like? And what's ahead of me?
Yeah.
And is that where I want to go? Am I on the train track to like Saskatchewan? Or am I going on a plane to Hawaii? Like where is this journey going? And is it the journey that I want to sign up for?
Yeah.
Or do we need to correct
We need to buy a
the
new
degrees?
ticket.
Yeah, buy a new ticket, change the degree of the boat a little bit so we end up in a beautiful place and not a freezing cold island. That kind of thing. Anyway.
One thing I did say when I was talking at our ancestors in the car was, I was like, like, I know the Universal Mother's taking care of me. I know she's taking care of you. I was like, I don't know that you all knew that you had a choice in what a higher power meant, right? And maybe it did feel like an active choice for some of them, but I don't know that they knew that they could make God whatever they wanted God to be, right? So I was like, you know what? You all gave me a lot, and I'm taking, probably to your chagrin, I'm taking that baton and running with it, right? And it's like, it's not just breaking the cycle of self-medication or being unfaithful or addiction, right? It's also not remaining stuck in relationships or jobs or anything that are not serving you well, right? Especially women, right? I'm like, I'm still single because I am not gonna do that,
Right.
I'm not just gonna like fall into a default. That's also breaking a cycle and a pattern. And so I feel like that's also been not weighing on me, but it's just been at the forefront, right? It's like there's so many layers to it, right? Like our world looks so different now than it did 100 years ago, right? Or 80 years ago or 60 years ago, right? And it's a lot. That's a lot of change to happen in a relatively short period of time. So just recognizing that I and you and all our listeners are doing a lot of really intense hard work just by living, right? And like getting through their days and making better choices, right? It's a lot. But we're doing it.
We're doing it.
Still here.
Still here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're in a, I mean, I feel like I'm in a good place, even though it's hard. Do you know what I mean?
That for you.
No, I do. You know what I mean? Like, even though with all of it, like, I didn't get tanked. I mean, yes, I'm going to feel the sadness. And yes, I made a choice. I could have taken off more work, but I made a choice to go to work to give myself a little levity because, the people I work with are so fun and funny and we have a good time together. And it's, after spending 3 days in a hospital, I felt like I needed a different focus for a little bit. And that's part of it. And it's not because I'm aware of it. It's not like, oh, I'm doing this to not feel that. In a way I am, but it's conscious, right? It's like, okay, I'm consciously
like I'm aware that I'm making a choice.
I'm making a choice to not like actually go down a big depression hole around this. So like, because the other thing about death is that like you can choose to live or not live. Like you can be a victim of it, or you can choose to live more joyful, like you can use it as a springboard for more living. And I've always done that, even though
I think my brother's death was the hardest. It took me 5 years really to spring back, not even fully, because I will never spring back fully from that. But to be like, I'm not the one who died. I get to live and, you know, quit my job 2 weeks later. And like, really like was like, and I didn't care how the chips fell. I didn't care how it impacted me financially. I was like, I am not spending another minute doing this. Right. And so it's really interesting when you can go within and take the time, and not even, sometimes it doesn't even require time. Sometimes it's just that clear where it's like, oh yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll see what happens with this. But one thing I will say is having the women over last night was really nice. Even as much work as it is, I think having people over on a regular basis or something, you know, there's something to the Shabbat dinners. There's something to going to church on Sundays. There's something to going to concert or a sporting event or anything that pulls people physically into a space for a common thing. And it's really healing and it's really lovely and it's really great for the psyche. Like everyone last night was joyfully leaving the house, right? And they didn't even all know each other. Like they're from all different parts of our lives. It was, which is what our lives are. Classic. Because Jackie and I pick people, not groups. And so when they get together, they can all find their common thread, but we're not trying to make it fit in some kind of cohesive group thing, you know? And so I think that it's really important. And I've said it before about the meetings and stuff, but really like making space for joy, creating space and bringing people together. Yeah. That's one of my gifts. Not everybody can bring people together, right? And it's one of your gifts too. And so I think it's important that we follow that a little bit more, because even as, you know, Jackie's like, because I don't often like to have people over. Yeah. Yeah, because it's vulnerable and it's a lot of fucking work. It is. And it's like, oh, is my house clean? And it's expensive. And it is expensive. We like to eat good. We do like to eat good. So, yeah, it was expensive. But, it could have been a lot less than what it was. But it is what it is. And I'm, you know what? I'm fine with it. Like for me, I have always spent money on experiences and not things really. Yeah. Which is why we live in the same, like we don't live in a bigger house. Yeah. Because I want to go to something like the Sphere or the myriad of other concerts, events. Like that's how I spend my dollars is living life. Like tonight, going to San Diego. As soon as we're done, we're going to hit the road. We're going to go down to San Diego. Yeah. Have a really good dinner in a really cool restaurant. Yes. I can't remember the name of it. Couldn't tell you, but it's good. Wood and something. Whatever. It's delicious. It's a cool spot. Yeah. We'll probably be the only ones there at 5 o'clock because we have to be somewhere at 7. Bird special. Yeah. And yeah. And then we'll we'll do our night. I'll finish up the last of the postcards. Come home tomorrow after probably brunch somewhere delightful. We better brunch. We are brunchy girls. Yeah. I think brunch is my favorite. And if it's a hotel buffet brunch, even better. Fuck it up. Absolutely. I don't think our hotel has that, but you know, in general, I think hotels, if you're listening, bring back the brunch. Not just a continental buffet. Nobody either. Just wants like little baby croissants that aren't really croissants. Yeah. We want like a little sip of smoothie in a shot glass. I want the one like kind of what we had in Copenhagen. Like the European European breakfast is good. Yeah. Israeli breakfast is kind of similar. But it's all veggies and it's more on the savory side. But yeah. But you know, we like to mix it up. little bit of everything, like a little piece of.
Yeah.
So if you're listening out there, where your people will come to your brunch.
Absolutely. And an offering of homework, I think. Like if you can go find a space where you feel comfortable being in a group this week, go be in a group. Find a group somewhere and dive in. It can be like in person if you can, if that feels safe, right? 'Cause Miss Rona is definitely back and rearing her head, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's scary by yourself, but just practice putting your hand down. Mm-hmm. And as the practice gets stronger, it gets easier. And sometimes it's okay to also not be all the way in, just observe just to be in the proximity of a group and look for the other wallflowers and be like, hey, feeling awkward?
Open?
Yeah, I am.
Then, and you can keep talking or not. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Treat it like you're a scientist. Like I like to be a scientist. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's going on over there?
Like there's some meetings I like to sit there. All the seats are facing forward. And then there's one row that's facing that's the wall looking out. And so you get to watch the whole thing. That's the seat I like. It's just to watch humanity doing its thing. Yeah. Anyway.
Cool. All right. We're rambling.
Drink some water.
Women. Drink some water. You're a miracle.
You're a miracle.
I'm a miracle.
We're a miracle.
We're miracles. Therapy is a miracle. Medication's a miracle. My dog is a miracle.
All of it's a miracle. Mm-hmm. All right. See you in 2 weeks.
We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and TikTok at 12 Steps for Everyone. That's at the number 12 Steps for Everyone.
Please like and follow us. You can also send us topics you want us to dig into or follow-up questions from each episode.
And if you know someone who would enjoy or benefit from our conversations, please feel free to share this with them. All are welcome here.